What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Counter Punch podcast. Today, we will be doing a full card breakdown of UFC Vegas 90. Really looking forward to it. It's a fun Apex card. You don't really say that, a fun Apex card, but Here we are. This should be a fun one. I mean, it's still shitty, not a lot of name value, but hey, another weekend of fights. I will be there. If you're new to these, my name is Lucas Cohen. His name is Rohan Borges, and as I mentioned, it's one of these the last bad card leading into UFC 300, and then we're here. The climax. UFC 300 is coming next weekend. But hey, right now we got to focus on UFC Vegas 90. You're right. First of all, how you doing? How's everything?
I'm doing good, man. I'm kind of excited, not really, for this card, but I guess the main event is somewhat intriguing just because, Brendan Allen's been on a crazy tear as of late. I think it's, 6 straight wins inside the UFC, and Chris Curtis kind of on the decline a little bit. So it's kind of two fighters looking to stamp themselves back in the good graces of the UFC. Well, in Chris Curtis' case, he's trying to get back in the good graces. In Brendan Allen's case, he's trying to prove himself and right or wrong of his earlier career, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's a fun rematch. I actually like this main event better than, the main event before, Marvin Vettori versus Brendan Allen. I wasn't really excited for that whatsoever. But now we get a good fight, a rematch. We get to see if Brendan Allen is able to right that wrong. I'm really looking forward to it. It should be a fun fight. A lot of people confident on one side in this one. I have a confident pick as well. I'm looking forward to it. Let's hop in to the first fight on the card. Melissa Tanya Mullins will be taking on Nora Cornolle, and I'll keep this one short and sweet. Low-level bantamweight women's fight. They both suck, and one's worse than the other. Nora Cornolle absolutely sucks. She lost to Jocelyn Edwards in her last fight. It says W next to her name. No, she lost that fight very clearly. One of the worst robberies. The fight was in, Paris? That was horrible. She looked like shit, and she's taking a step up in competition, even though, the judges handed her the win. And she's getting Melissa Tanya Mullins. I don't think she's bad. I don't think she's, shitty. Because I said at the top, I wouldn't say it's I don't think she's shitty. I think she's a level above Nora Cornolle. If you look at what she did to Daria Zelyankova, she just mauled her round 1 TKO. Zelyankova's coming off a great win. What was that, 2 weeks ago? I like Mullins here. I think she can finish this fight. I think she dominates all day, every day.
I agree. I don't know about the finish just because you really never know in these low-level women's fights especially, but I would agree with your point about Cornolle just not looking good, especially in her last fight. I don't know what it was, but the judges, I thought in France, Jocelyn's a French fighter, I thought they'd give it to her. It was a clear decision in my eyes, and they completely robbed her. I don't know how Nora Cornolle got that decision victory, but I will say that Melissa Tanya Mullins, the much cleaner striker between the two. I think Cornolle is probably the better grappler, but it all depends on if she's able to get the fight to the ground. I don't think she will consistently enough in this fight, so I think Mullins will be able to keep it standing and probably ease her way into a decision victory. I don't know. I think she just has a pretty easy time in this fight, so I agree with you. I'm going to take Mullins by decision.
Yeah, I just think this is going to be an absolute wash for Mullins. I just think Cornolle, even on the ground, I think she washes her on the ground, on the feet. Low-level fight, but give me Mullins. Let's move on to the next fight on the card. Dylan Budka taking on Cesar Almeida. A fun fight between two debutants. Both had fights on the Contender Series. One in the later weeks in Budka and one in the first week, I believe, in Cesar Almeida. Almeida's a guy who's a kickboxer. He fought Alex Pereira 3 times. Won once, lost twice, but the fact that he even got a win, very, very impressive. But, it's an interesting stylistic matchup. Dylan Budka, he's going to come in with the wrestling, the pressure. But I don't know if Budka will be able to, do that for 13 minutes and win a decision. If you look at what the judges have been scoring recently, it's damage over control all day, every day. Almeida, he was tested. His takedown in his Contender Series fight against an LFA champion, I believe, at the time. Lucas Fernando, I believe his name was, got taken down, got back up, and, even dominated in moments on the ground. I think Almeida's training at Extreme Couture. He's only getting better. He's 36, which, it is a concern. But, with these heavier weight classes, the fighters don't really fall off as much when they get to that older age. Especially these kickboxers, man. I think Almeida, he's working on that takedown defense. And I like him at plus money here.
Yeah, I definitely agree that he's got to be focused on the takedown defense. He's a kickboxer. It's a complete kickboxing background of his. But he did look good defending takedowns in that one Contender Series fight. However, Budka is actually a high-level wrestler. Believe it or not, this guy has a ton of experience in, high school, college, all that. Like, he is a credentialed wrestler. So I don't know if Almeida's ready to defend for 15 minutes against somebody that's probably going to be looking to get him down throughout the fight, because Budka can stand with Almeida. I think he can probably trade with him and keep it, safe enough to where he's not getting pieced up, because Almeida, look, he's a great kickboxer. Don't get me wrong. Beat Alex Pereira, but it's a completely different sport. When you actually have to worry about the threat of the wrestling and the grappling, even your approach on the feet will change drastically. So I don't think that it's that easy a call on the feet either. It's a really tough fight to pick. It's all about, can Almeida defend those takedowns consistently enough? And I'm just going to say no. I don't think he will be. So I'm going to say Budka edges out a decision. I think it's close because Almeida probably will have a lot of moments where he's landing clean shots on the feet. But I don't really hate Budka's striking. I think he's very powerful. Like, when he lands pretty hard. And the takedown is always going to be just something. And I don't know, man. Like, when it's overwhelming control over damage, then it becomes a little more tough for the judges to call. So I think it's going to be a little back and forth, but I'll go Budka.
Here's the thing about this one. I just think that all the finishing potentials on this side of Almeida, I feel like if there's a knockout, it comes from the Almeida side. I feel like if it hits the scorecards, yeah, it can be very close. But again, I'm going to take the damage over the control. Fun fight, though. I like Cesar Almeida. I'm looking forward to both of their careers. Let's move on to the next fight here. John Matsumoto taking on Dan Argueta. Yeah. Matsumoto is a guy that I'm really, really high on. I mean, he looked incredible in his Contender Series debut. He's 14-0, just really, really slick on the feet. He's got great leg kicks, great creativity on the feet, very, very crisp boxer, and incredible takedown defense. I mean, he's got strong, stumpy, short, strong hips, and man, I feel like this is a solid stylistic matchup for him. Dan Argueta, he's going to bring it. He's going to spam those takedowns. He will probably win round one. But I think as the fight goes on, Matsumoto will start defending those takedowns. And again, I think this is going to be a situation of damage over control all day. I like Matsumoto by a clear 29-28 decision. This is a prospect to watch out for. I mean, he's fought incredible competition on the regional scene. Argueta's tough. I don't see a finish in this one. Both are very, very tough. I mean, Argueta took some bombs from Miles Johnson. Yeah. Just kept walking forward. Yeah. So I'm going to pick Jean Matsumoto by 29-28 decision, and I'm confident in that.
Yeah, I'm very confident in this one as well. I just love his striking, and I think that I hate Dan Argueta's striking, which is why I really lean on the Matsumoto side. He mixes in the leg kicks and just the kicks in general so well. I think that's going to definitely give some hesitancy to Dan Argueta about those takedown entries, because, like, in the first round, we all know the wrestlers in the first round, they're ready to shoot takedowns consistently, relentlessly until they get you down. But if that starts to fail them, and if they're not able to get their opponent down, then they can start to slow down. And I think that the leg kicks are going to play a factor in slowing Dan Argueta down. I think, like you said, the later rounds are where we're really going to see John Matsumoto start to separate himself, the cleaner striker by a mile. Dan Argueta was getting obliterated on the feet by Miles Johns, who has like one reliable technique, which is just an overhand right. And he was getting pieced up by Miles Johns. I can't get that out of my mind when looking at this fight. I'm going to take Matsumoto by decision as well.
Yeah, again, Matsumoto guy I'm very, very high on, and I'm looking forward to that one. Let's move on to the next fight here. It is Cynthia Calvillo taking on Piera Rodriguez. This one is just so tough to call. I think it's the definition of a 50-50 fight. Calvillo seems like she's washed, but at least she on a 5-fight losing streak.
Yeah, that's insane, dude. But 6 of her last 7.
It is crazy, but at least she's, fighting solid competition.
You're right.
Piera Rodriguez got absolutely, washed by Jillian Robertson, who we really don't know how good Jillian Robertson is. Sometimes she wins, sometimes she loses. Very inconsistent fighter there. It's so tough. In a low-level women's MMA fight, I'm going to take whoever the plus money is. I'm going to take Cynthia Calvillo. I think she wins by 29-28, close decision, maybe a split decision. I just feel like she'll out-vet her. I mean, 5-fight losing streak, back against the wall. If she loses, she gets cut. She is 36. But, man, I'm going to trust the vet here. And, I'm going to pick Cynthia Calvillo. Probably the fight I'm least excited for in this card, though.
Yeah, the more I think about it, like you said, so tough to call this fight because it's just low level. Like, when you watch tape on these ladies, like, it's hard to not think to yourself, why are they still fighting? How are they in the UFC? Because it's that level of talent on the feet, especially, man. Like, Cynthia Calvillo, her defensive striking in her last few fights, she looked horrible. She got doctor stoppage against Andrea Lee. Like, how does that even happen? Andrade, she looked horrible, and that wasn't even too long ago. That was 2021, and she already started to look bad on the feet. I don't know. I don't like the trend that she's going in, so it's really hard for me to to pick her here. But like you said, Piera Rodriguez, I mean, it's not like she's faced the best competition either. She has a nice win over Sam Hughes, Kay Hansen, I guess, but Jalen Robinson gave it's so tough to call. I think just because from what I've watched on the tape, I hate what I've seen from Calvillo. I'm going to side with Piera Rodriguez. But that's just a gut call. It could go either way. What you said could come completely to fruition. I don't know, but that's where I'm leaning.
Yeah. Again, probably a fight I'll be taking a shit during. Yeah. Let's move on to the next one. What do we have here? Got to go back. Give me 1 second. We have
Norma, right?
Norma Dumont taking on Germaine de Randamie. Hey, if this fight was taking place in 2020, I'm all over Germaine de Randamie. 2019, 2020, I like de Randamie. De Randamie's taken 4 years, three and a half years off. She had a win over Juliana Pena. It was a guillotine choke. And ever since, I think she was like pregnant at one point. And now she's back 3.5 years later. Now she's fighting Norma Dumont. And whenever a fighter's taking that long of a layoff, that's not like John Jones, I have to pick the other fighter. We don't know where de Randamie is right now. Again, she's coming off a pregnancy and such a long layoff. She's 39. Turning 40 in 2 weeks.
Jeez.
I mean, I gotta go the younger fighter, Dumont. She actually looked really good. Well, really good in Norma Dumont standards. In her last fight against Chelsea Chandler, Dumont's somebody I can trust. Don't think I'm gonna have any money on this fight, but I'm gonna trust Dumont to get this one done.
Yeah, I don't have the best read on this fight just because, like you said, when a fighter takes 4 years off, how do you even, judge them on their return? It's hard to really know what they'll look like. But obviously, in 2020, her last fight, was it against Juliana Pena, I think, de Randamie's last fight? And she looked great in that fight. She got a submission victory, which I was not expecting watching that. But she's 39, coming off of a pregnancy now. Like, how can you pick her? I don't know. So I'm just going to side with the safe bet, I think, in this fight, which is Norma Dumont, who's been more active. She's more adapted to this weight class at this point, I guess. So, yeah, I'll just side with her.
And it's funny because de Randamie really tried to sneak back in as soon as Nunes retired.
Yeah, man. Her only 2 losses really are to Nunes. So that's the one thing I will say. Like, with de Randamie's career, like, she's a former champ, number one, and she's taken out some good talent. Like, she beat Pena convincingly in her last fight, but now 39 years old is tough. But I love that, man. As soon as Nunes is out, she's like, this is my chance. I can maybe have one more shot at the belt. I just don't see it here, though. I agree with you. Dumont is the pick.
Hey, if she comes back and looks good, I mean, if she wins this fight, she could probably walk right into a title shot. Like, who else?
That's how shallow it is,
right? Pena. Yeah. I mean, she wins this fight. I don't know. I see her. If she looks good, I mean, we got to see how she looks. But Raquel Pennington sucks.
Like, yeah, exactly.
I can see. Oh, my God. Exactly. They just need to get rid of this division. Let's move on to the next fight. Court McGee taking on Alex Morono. And actually, before I get into that, I think this is where the Victor Hugo fight against Haley Alateng was supposed to take place. As of where we're recording right now, there's no replacement for Hugo, but I assume we will get a replacement pretty soon. So, no replacement yet, but maybe by the time the video's out or tomorrow, we may see a replacement. But let's move on. Court McGee versus Alex Morono. When I first saw this fight, I was all over Alex Morono. But, I mean, I was just thinking to myself, I don't think Alex Morono's that good, right? But I just think Court McGee's completely washed. To be honest. I mean, look at he got brutally knocked out by Matt Brown. Brutally T-posed by Jeremiah Wells. He's coming off back-to-back knockouts. How old is he? 39, 40? Yeah, he's 39. But, I mean, look at who he's beat, right? Like, 2021. This is recently, of course. I'm only going to look after the pandemic, right? 2021 beat Claudio Silva. All right fighter. 2022 beats Ramiz Brahimaj, not a horrible fighter. I feel like if he's not fighting a guy with crazy finishing potential, he stands a chance. Now, I obviously still have to pick Morono here because he's coming off 2 brutal knockouts, and I think Morono can have moments. But, man, I think this is going to be a close one. I mean, Morono's, minus 350?
Yeah.
I think this is going to be much, much closer than the line says. I think McGee's live dog. As long as he's not getting hurt, man, I think he can win this fight. But again, brutal knockouts back-to-back. Morono's not a finisher. I could see it happening. I mean, you saw him TKO Donald Cowboy Cerrone.
True.
He does like to, finish off these old guys. Pause. But I want to pick McGee, but I can't. I'm going to go Morono, but I do see a close fight.
I see exactly where you're coming from, but man, that Morono and the Morono performance in the Buckley fight, his last fight, I think it was kind of bad, especially in the third round. Like, you could see his will to win was visibly fading away. And I don't know if that's going to ever get to this point in this fight against Court McGee, who's like, 40 years old. So is he going to be able to push Alex to that brink like Joaquin Buckley was able to? I don't think so. But yeah, I think I just gotta side with the safe pick here. Like, could I see Court McGee somehow winning this fight? I don't see a finish. Let me just say that I don't see a finish on either side. I think it goes to decision either way. But I just think Morono is younger, faster, probably just a little cleaner. So I'm gonna side with him here. But I would not be surprised if we got another old man upset, because we've seen it, man. Like, dudes, these old guys that are just brawlers, they somehow find ways. Like, Tim Means somehow, he still wins fights sometimes. Matt Brown, a legend, but the immortal, man, he sometimes just finds a way to get it done. So we don't know for sure, but I'm going to just side with the safe one. So I'll go Morono as well.
And another thing about Morono is, I don't know if you've seen him on the scales recently, but it's so weird. Whenever he gets on the scales, he's like dripping in sweat. And he's like, I mean, he's looked horrible at weigh-ins. I do want to see the weigh-ins. If he looks dog shit again, I may pull the trigger on McGee, because it's a close fight. I'm picking Morono.
The line, I don't like the line. Like, minus 350 on Morono, stay away from that. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm actually, this is a fight it's low level, but I'm looking forward to it, because I do think McGee could put up a fight. We'll pick Morono as of now, but McGee's definitely a dog here that I like. Let's move on to the next one here. Oh, this is going to be a war. Steve from Minecraft Peak taking on Charlie Campbell. Man, I like the dog here in Trevor Peak. I see everybody and their mom on Charlie Campbell at chalk at minus 220, minus 230, I believe. But man, I just think Charlie Campbell will bring himself into a war in this one. And whenever you're in a war, you always want to choose Trevor Peak with these low level, lightweight fights. I think I'm confident. I'm confident in Peak. I'm lost for words, but I'm confident in Peak, man. I mean, you just watched the tape of Charlie Campbell, right? He can just get...
He doesn't look great, man.
Overzealous. He has talent, but just look at that Chris Duncan fight, right? Dropped him 3 times, was looking incredible, but just his chin is right there. Peak is durable as shit. He's gonna, he's gonna stand with you, and he's gonna eat those blows. Peak will definitely get dropped once or twice in this fight. I do think it's gonna happen. That's who Trevor Peak fight, right? But I do feel like as the fight goes on, Peak is just gonna wear this guy out. I see a second round TKO for Trevor Peak. Even in Campbell's last fight, I'm sorry I was going to hand it off, but he fought Alex Reyes, knocked him out in round 1. But you can still see with his striking that as soon as he gets you hurt, he's just trotting with his head forward. I'm confident. Give me the dog, Trevor Peak. He's at plus 180 right now. I like him.
You convinced me, man. And maybe it was that. Maybe it was what we were talking about before. But I don't know. I kind of agree with you, just because I feel like it's inevitable that this one will end up being a war, because it feels like every single one of Trevor Peak's fights ends up being a war. Even the one he lost, or did he lost to Chepe Mariscal. That was a crazy fight. But the entire time, I mean, he was taking a beating for 15 minutes and ate all of that shit. And Chepe hits hard. So I don't know, man. Like, does he find he probably does find a finish, right? Just because my boy Campbell's chin is not the best. Like, we've seen it. Like, he should have beat Chris Duncan. He had him out, like completely out, and just got completely reckless with his hands all the way open, chin wide open, right up in the air, and got slept. So I don't know, man. It's hard not to side with you here. So I'm going to take Trevor Peak. I'm going to back you up, man. I like the pick. Underdog, baby. I'm rolling with you.
And this might be my favorite fight in the card outside of maybe like
it's gonna be a war.
The main event. This is gonna be fun. I mean, Morgan how do you say his last name?
Charriere.
Looking forward to that one, main event. But man, I think this is my favorite fight of the night. But we're both going the dog and Trevor Peak with an odd amount of confidence. Let's move on to the next one. Lucas Brezski versus Walter Walker. For those that don't know, Walter Walker is Johnny Walker's heavyweight brother, and for some reason he's fighting out of Moscow, Russia. I don't know why.
He looks Russian kind of too. It's weird.
Maybe he's like an inbred Dagestani Brazilian guy. Interesting.
I don't know, man.
But he's big, man. This guy's 6'6", 81-inch reach. I think this is a great stylistic matchup for Walker. I feel like a lot of heavyweights are a great stylistic matchup against Lucas Brezski, because here's the thing about Lucas Brezski, right? He's fought in the UFC 3 times. He's lost all 3 times. He fought Martin Buday, lost. In a fight I actually thought he won, but still, Martin Buday lost. Carl Williams lost there. And then Waldo Cortez Acosta brutally knocked out in round 1 by Acosta, who is not a finisher. And he got brutally knocked out. Here's the thing that I want to point out to you. Why this guy's looked so bad. this guy was on the juice. I mean, you look at it won't. I don't think it'll show in his picture here. I mean, they were like just look up like a Lucas Brezski on Google, and you'll see him just absolutely jacked to the gill. And going into his Contender Series fight,
oh my
he
goodness.
looked, look at that
Jesus.
6-pack, absolutely ripped. Going into his Contender Series fight, he looked just like that,
like a melted ice cream.
He pops for that Contender Series fight after it ends. He still gets his contract, but then you just see, and he makes his debut. That 6-pack is nowhere, and it's not like he even looked like all right. I mean, the moves were there, the dad bod. I mean, this guy, I just don't think he's UFC level. I think he's dog shit. And I think Walter Walker is actually not bad at all. I think anywhere this fight goes, it's Walter Walker. I like him by domination.
I agree. He's the much better athlete in this fight, and that's what a lot of low-level heavyweight fights come down to. And I think that was the case in Brezski's fight against Carl Williams, where Williams just out-athleted him, if that makes sense to you guys. Like, he just held him against the cage for times, just would ragdoll him, throw him down. He would get back up, but then he'd do it right back again. Like, that could be the exact same thing we see here with Walter Walker. Like, he will be able to get Brezski off of his feet a few times, probably knock him down if he's out there throwing these crazy combinations, because he's got a lot of power is the thing. And unlike his brother, Johnny, he has a chin on him too. Like, I'm not really worried about Brezski ever finding the target clean enough to hurt Walker, but I think if he ever does, I'm not really worried about him being finished. So I just think all the upsides on the Walker side here. What is the line on this one?
Minus 350.
Yeah, that's it's probably only going to get higher, to be honest. So I like Walker here, probably inside the distance.
Let's move on to the next fight. Ignacio Bahamondes will be taking on Christos Giagos. A lot of people online are very confident in Ignacio Bahamondes. I'm just not sure. I'm not that confident. I do think he wins, but I don't think Giagos is that bad. I mean, he had a brutal knockout over Ricky Glenn. In his next fight against Zellhuber, he got submitted, but he had his moments. He dropped Zellhuber. He looked solid leading up to, getting finished. Against Zellhuber, who's very, very good in my eyes, a prospect that I'm very high on. I think Giagos is going to put up a fight. I don't think Ignacio should be minus 300. I think he should be land more towards minus 180, minus 200. But this guy, he's coming off a loss. He's coming off a learning lesson against who did he lose to in his last fight?
It was like a bad one. Klein, right?
Ludovic Klein. I don't think he's that bad. Again, not good, but solid. I think he's going to learn his lessons, though. The guy's young. I'm going to pick him to win. I don't know if he gets a finish or a decision. I'll think about it and let you go. But I do think it's a closer fight than people think.
I'm going to side with Bahamondes, and I'm more confident than you. And the reason why is just he's still 26, and when this guy was first a prospect, the hype around him was crazy because he had back-to-back insane finishes, the Contender Series, front kick to the face. Then right after that takes out, who is it, Jeremiah... What's the dude that went on to the Ultimate Fighter? I forgot his name.
What are you talking about?
With the dreads. I'm blanking too. I'm going to find it.
Roosevelt Roberts.
Roosevelt Roberts. He knocked his ass out with a beautiful, oh my God,
clean.
Technical spinning back kick. I was trying to practice that in my room after I saw it. It was that good. I'm telling you. Bro, I was so high on him. And then obviously he beat Trey Ogden, good win. And then lost to Ludovic Klein. Kind of stopped all the momentum because how do you lose to Ludovic Klein taking out that kind of talent? I think he's going to get right back into it here, man. I think he's going to get back in the win column. He's still learning, man. He's 26 years old. I think he's still developing as a UFC fighter. He has to get used to that strength, that these older guys have, especially somebody like Giagos, who we've seen him be able to use his experience in the past to his advantage against guys like Zellhuber. But again, another guy that was on the come up. I think at this point in Bahamondes' career, he's a lot more aware of what's coming at him on the defensive side, and his offensive striking is a level, matter of fact, 5 levels above Christos Giagos. So I think as long as he can keep it standing and keep it at range, he'll have no problem. So I'm going to take Bahamondes, and I like him to... Has Giagos ever been finished? Yeah, he has. Knocked out twice. I'm going to take him by knockout.
I'm actually going to take the submission, actually, the more that I think about it. I mean, Ignacio Bahamondes submitted Rongju by Bravo choke, a choke that you very rarely see. One of his only submissions in his, entire career. I believe his only submission, right? Yeah. But Giagos loves to stick himself in those awkward chokes. I mean, got submitted by an anaconda against Daniel Zellhuber. I see a club and sub here. I think Ignacio hurts him on the feet and gets like a weird submission. I'll say Darce. But yeah, I do think Giagos will have his moments. Should be a fun fight, but I'm with you. Bahamondes. Let's move on to the next fight. Morgan Charriere versus Chepe Mariscal. In my opinion, this is the hardest fight to call by far. I think this is really, really tough.
Very tough.
Charriere is a guy that I think is really, really good. How old is he now? 28. He made his debut at UFC Paris against a guy who wasn't that good at all in Manolo Zucchini, but regardless, ran through him, looked great. I think this guy's good. I do think he's really good. I think he's very, very talented is the word here. But how is he going to do against Chepe Mariscal? I mean, this is a massive step up in competition from Zucchini to Mariscal. We just don't know. I don't know where this guy is in his career. Chepe is a dog. He's an absolute dog. I mean, he's got a crazy chin, crazy durability, and he's just going to be in your face the entire fight. I think this is very, very close. But I'm going to side with Charriere. I mean, the kid's 28. He's only getting better. I think he's really talented. I'll take the talent over the dog, but do not take my word on this one. I think this one can really go either way. What do you think?
I'm going to agree. I think Charriere, I mean, he looked incredible. To your point, Manolo Zucchini, not a high-level fighter by any means, but he ran through him, and that's what you want to see. Like, I think people get lost in the fact, like, oh, he hasn't fought anybody good. But if he's running through these guys, then it's showing you something. That should tell you something, and he ran through him beautifully. Body kick, found the liver every time. I mean, it was technical as it gets, and that's what I think it comes down to. Look, Chepe's a dog. He's a dog, and I love him. I think everybody that actually knows Chepe and watches his fights, you can't help but like the guy because he's a warrior. That's what he does. He just sticks in there, will stand in the pocket and trade with you until he can't anymore. I don't think he's going to be able to have that much success here against Morgan Charriere, at least early. I think, like in the later rounds, he could have success. But I think at that time in the fight, like the third round, we might see Chepe in a situation where he's trying to play catch up because he's already down a round and maybe 2 rounds because Charriere has put together a cleaner performance through those first 10 minutes. Like, he is so technical and he's able to keep his distance. It's when those guys start to wear on him with the wrestling especially, like that's when he starts to get a little fatigued. And I don't know if that's going to ever happen here because it's going to be standing. I think Chepe could push the pace and look to make it ugly in the clinch. Like, that would be probably the best strategy. But is he able to do that, get inside enough on Charriere, somebody that's so good at keeping the range? I don't know. I don't think so. I'm going to pick Charriere by decision because Chepe's a dog. But that's just, I'm more confident in Charriere. Yeah.
This is going to be another fun fight. Let's move on to the co-main event. Another dog shit Apex co-main event. Alexander Hernandez taking on Damon Jackson. Here's the thing. I see a lot of people confident on Alexander Hernandez. I'm going to pick him to win the fight just because I don't think Damon Jackson's all that good. But, man, Hernandez, I mean, he looked good against Bill Algeo. I mean, he looked good despite the loss. But, man, I just can't trust the guy. I mean, I'm going to pick him to win, but you can't trust him. This is a guy that got finished by Billy Quarantillo in round 2. Got absolutely drowned. Damon Jackson's going to be relentless. He won't stop shooting. I think Alexander Hernandez stuffs the takedowns, wins on the feet. I don't know if he finds a finish. This is a fight I'm not really that confident in. Everything's saying Hernandez should win this fight, but this guy is just so inconsistent. He beats up Kant and loses against any decent competition. But I do think Damon Jackson's on the decline, and Hernandez, I'd say, is only getting better. I'm curious how old he is. What is he? Is he 30? Yeah, 31. Yeah, 31 right now. But again, I mean, lost to Drew Dober, lost to Moises, lost to Moicano, Quarantillo, Algeo. Yeah. He did beat Jim Miller, which is, it's a pretty good look. I see a close fight. I'll go Alex Hernandez.
Look, based on the records alone, if you're just scrolling through their Tapology, you wouldn't be confident in either of these guys because it's just littered with L's everywhere you look. Both of these guys have lost to a lot of guys. But if you're watching the tape, man, Damon Jackson, I cannot stand his fighting style. I just can't. He's like easily maneuvered. Like, he's very loose and he doesn't really have a lot of sturdiness and strength to his game whatsoever. Like, he gets tossed around in the clinch, like always controlled against the fence. I don't see him having any success in the wrestling exchanges in this fight. I think that's Alex's path to victory, is to turn this into more of a wrestling fight. Like, he's got knockout power. We know that about Alex Hernandez. He's done it to, we've seen him do it to Beneil Dariush in the past, a few other big guys. But Damon Jackson can be just, tossed around, ragdolled if you go in with that wrestling first approach. And I think that Alex has all the tools, definitely the build to do that against Jackson. So I'm just a lot more confident, but how can you be when he's losing to Billy Quarantillo and getting finished? Didn't he get finished by Billy Quarantillo?
Round 2 TKO.
Yeah, man. Like, that's not a good look at all, man. And Damon Jackson's slick. He's slick. That's the word to use with Jackson. He's slick, but I can't trust him here. So I'm going to take Hernandez.
What do you mean by slick?
Like, he has 13, 15 submission victories. True. How is he really getting submission victories?
Like, man, slick on the feet.
No, not on the feet. No, let me make that clear. Not on the feet. He's slick in terms of he knows how to get slight advantages in the ground game. That's why he has 15 submission
does.
victories with no wrestling game, is because he'll just drag you down there and kind of trick you into some shit. But I don't think he's going to be able to catch Hernandez, man. I don't know, man. I hate Damon Jackson. I'm going to pick Hernandez.
Wow. A pick out of hatred. Is that a first?
It might be. I don't know. I don't hate too many people, but when you watch this guy on tape, it's like, what am I watching?
Soy is the
soy
word.
boy, yeah, for sure.
Let's move on to the main event, one that we can talk about for a little bit because, man, this is going to be a fun one. Brendan Allen will be taking on Chris Curtis. For those that don't know, these two fought in a 3-round matchup. Didn't make off 3 rounds, but they did fight. I believe it was the co-main event or something. This was in December of 2021, I believe. November or December. And Chris Curtis won by a round 2 KO. He won round 1 and came back round 2 and brutally finished Brendan Allen. Ever since that fight for Brendan Allen, if my computer will let me click or if my computer's going to freeze, how many fights has Brendan Allen won in a row?
He's 6-fight win streak, yeah. 6 fight. If you don't include, I mean, he had a grappling win too, so I guess 7 technically. But no,
not counting the grappling. But here's the thing:
6 fights in a row, yeah.
I think I've been waiting to fade Brendan Allen. I'm not gonna lie, and I think this is a perfect spot. I'm gonna go over a couple things, right? Let's start with looking at that 6-fight win streak, right? Sam Alvey, rear naked choke, round 2. That doesn't count. Sam Alvey sucks. Jacob Malkoun in a decision, a very, 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 very close fight that I feel like you could score for Malkoun. Not the best look. I like Jacob Malkoun. He won me a shit ton of money last week, but again, I don't know. It's not the best of look. Goes on. Christoph Giagos wins round 1 submission. Giagos recently lost to a bum in the PFL. I don't rate him that highly. Andre Muniz, solid win, round 3, rear naked choke. But Muniz, man, he's a gasser. He gasses out. I don't know. I mean, so far, I'm not really ranking these wins very high. Bruno Silva, round 1 submission. Bruno Silva is washed. We saw that this weekend. Paul Craig, round 3 submission. Paul Craig is a one-trick pony with that triangle choke. And even at middleweight, this guy seems to have gotten worse. Are these guys Chris Curtis? I don't think so. I mean, we saw what happened the first time around. The only thing that's scaring me here is the age of Curtis. He's now 36. But as I mentioned when I was talking about Almeida, with these heavier weight classes, the middleweights, the light heavyweights, the heavyweights, they don't, get worse as fast as, the smaller weight classes as they go up in age. Man, I've been waiting to fade Brendan Allen. I think he has bad striking defense. Chris Curtis has great takedown defense. I know he got taken down 3 times by Nasruddin Imavov, but here's the thing about Imavov. He has incredible striking to mix in the takedowns. I don't think Brendan Allen has that incredible striking. I think Chris Curtis knows what the game plan is going to be here. I think he's going to stuff the early takedowns. I think he's going to find a KO in either round 2 or round 3, or maybe win a decision. Maybe Brendan Allen survives this one. I'm confident in Chris Curtis. I think he finds a finish.
I don't know. I'm not confident in either side. Like, it's such a tough fight to call. But you just mentioned the Nasruddin Imavov 3 takedowns. And his takedown defense is still 92%, Chris Curtis, which means that was really the only fight that he's been exposed, on the ground. But Brendan Allen has been relentless against grapplers and submitting them with the same freaking choke every time. Like, it's a rear naked choke. 5 times in a row, or 3, 4, 5 times in a row. How is that? When's the last time we've seen that for a fighter to be on a run of finishing a fight by one technique? This is crazy what he's doing. I worry about Curtis's age as well. And the thing about, if you watch the first fight, obviously Allen's striking, I think, it might have improved. I don't know if we can really say that confidently because he's not really facing any strikers. And, Curtis is probably the best striker out of anybody he's faced still, which is a little worrying, but
besides Sean Strickland.
Yeah, besides Strickland, you're right. But he got caught as well. I think that's a clear example of somebody getting caught because they were throwing at the exact same time during that finishing sequence, and he just landed first, landed clean, put him on wobbly legs, and then obviously got the finish. It was impressive, but is Curtis still that guy 3 years later? I don't know. And this momentum now that Brendan Allen has, it's really hard for me to deny, man. It's so tough because I get everything that you're saying. Like, I see 100% where you're coming from. But for me, man, I'm sorry. I got to do it. I got to side with Brendan Allen. We just see a case of this recently. Who got their dub back after? Was it Ibo Aslan got his dub back against...
But here's the thing.
He learned his lesson. He didn't get finished. He didn't get gassed out, and he got the third round finish. Maybe Brendan Allen learned his lesson, and he wasn't even trying many takedowns in that first fight as well. That's another thing. Maybe it was because of Chris Curtis' takedown defense to that point, like it dissuaded him from trying. But I think he's gonna be way more relentless because he knows now. Once I get you down, if I get your back, you're fucking done. Like that, we've seen that in 5 fights in a row. So I don't know. I'm not confident, but I just think that he's got momentum right now, and Chris Curtis does not. He has the opposite. If you count that Imavov loss, no contest,
he's coming off a win.
Against Barrialt, man. I'm sorry.
Barrialt is not bad.
I don't like Barrialt.
Barrialt is better than any of these fighters that he beat.
He's not better than Brendan Allen, though. I don't think
Barrialt is better. Okay, but Brendan...
It's a completely different fight. It's a completely different fight that we're talking about.
Barrialt is better than any of the guys that Allen's beat on this run.
But
any of them.
Barrialt's
he's better than Paul.
Exactly
let me
like
talk
Chris
now.
Curtis'
No.
style,
Paul. He's better than Paul Craig at 185. I don't give a fuck. Paul Craig sucks. He sucks at 185. He's better than washed Bruno Silva.
Silva just started to become washed.
Bro, ever since that Alex Pereira beating, he's been washed. Okay. He got beat the fuck up by Gerald Mearshart, bro. No, stop. Don't say that. Andre Muniz, you can make a case, but he's just a gasser. All Allen had to do was survive. Jocko, not that good. Lost to PFL recently. Jacob Malkoun, lost. You could say he lost. You said he lost last week. You said he lost that fight. Don't make me pull up that fucking clip.
No.
You said Brendan Allen lost that fight.
Okay, but it's different. Again, that was 2 years ago. We're talking about a completely different fighter that's taking the momentum of 5. Like, he's getting finishes against guys that you wouldn't think he's going to submit them, though. That's
nobody.
The thing. Paul Craig doesn't really always get submitted.
Paul Craig finished fucking Andre Muniz, bro. They both suck. Bro. They both suck. Craig finished
Chris
Muniz.
Curtis is getting taken down by Imavov at will now at this point.
Let me just clarify. So not to do MMA math here. But that's
tough. The thing we got to stay away from.
It's true. It's a good point. But here's the thing. These guys just suck. Like, you can do it. These guys fucking suck.
But look at the first fight. Like,
this is a massive step up in competition for Brendan Allen.
Let me ask him. It's a massive step up. You're saying that as if he hasn't already fought him. He knows who he's fighting at this point. Let me ask you something. Up until the finish, was it convincing? Like, oh, Curtis is piecing him up. No. Curtis's eye was fucked up. If you're judging it on damage, honestly.
Curtis won round 1 clearly.
Okay, clearly, but he was landing, man. He was landing, and he was hurting him on the feet, and you're the one calling his striking shit. So if his striking is shit at this point, it's 3 years later. I don't think Curtis is only getting worse. Like, we've seen that.
I don't think Brendan Allen's striking is shit. I think his striking defense is shit. That's not something you can really fix. Look at that Paul Craig fight. I mean, obviously, Paul Craig doesn't really offer a threat on the feet, so maybe, he was more lenient to leave his chin right there. But still, I don't think this guy's fixed that striking defense, which is why I just have to pick Curtis by KO. We saw this fight.
Wow, by KO too. Damn, a repeat.
We saw this 2.5 years ago. I don't know. I could see a decision by him just where. But again, I like Chris Curtis. I'm confident. Your opinion. Listen. Yeah. I 100% get what you're saying, and the more you talk, the more I'm even thinking about the Brendan Allen side. Is Curtis getting worse? Is Allen getting better? But again, I just think also 5 rounds. I know the majority of these finishes Allen's getting is late, like round 3 finish against Craig, round 3 finish against Muniz. But man, I think Curtis shines in a 5-round fight. I think I'm going to go 3rd or 4th round TKO as my official pick.
I don't know.
What's your official pick? Give me that.
Official pick, I'm going to go Allen by sub. I'm just going to say it because I think this fight ends inside the distance. Like, I really think that if the early rounds we don't see a finish, like, we're going to see one later, just because Allen, like you said, he's been able to survive, and then not only that, but just like start to find his groove in the ground game, in the wrestling, like being able to take these guys down, hold them down, advance your way to the back. Like, people don't give enough credit to that. 5 rear naked choke finishes. It's not easy to advance your way to somebody's back. It takes a while to advance to somebody's back usually.
Against who?
I know, it's a good point. It's tough.
Chris Curtis has been submitted once in his entire career, and it was in 2011.
Yeah. That's true. But Brendan Allen has 5 submission finishes in a row. Like, so I mean, it's
what are the 2 words I'm going to say?
Against who? I get it. It's tough, man. It's freaking tough. But I'm standing on business. I'm standing on Brendan Allen by sub round 3. That's what I'm saying.
He's going Allen by sub round 3. I am supremely confident in Chris Curtis money line. And hey, I'm about to make a video about it anyways. So we got in on Chris Curtis plus 230, plus 170. I think you can agree though. Despite you think it's a close fight, right?
Close fight, yeah.
Plus
great bet. Like the
plus
value
230 is
there.
wild.
Yeah, for sure.
You got to take a stab at that dog spot, especially plus even at plus 172. I still think you can. I think this I think it's fair to say this is a, in my opinion, it should either be dead even or slight favorite Curtis. I feel like you feel it should be dead even or slight favorite Allen.
Yeah.
But I do think the value is 100% on the Curtis side.
Agreed.
I'm going Curtis. He's going Allen. Folks, that's all we have for you today. UFC 300 is coming next week. And then after that, I think, then we have a weekend off. And then it's like, actually, I just saw on Twitter that Kopp pulled out of his fight with Nicolau. Now it's Alex Perez Nicolau as the main event. So we're back to shitty Apex events. But yeah, for now, if you guys want to get in on our Discord, so much content for you there. And a lot of bets, a lot of money line bets this week as well. That's all we got for you today. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe. It's been Lucas and Rohan. Deuces.
Peace.